Okay. So today's topic that we are going to see is AWS IAM. In our previous session, we spoke about what AWS is, in fact, what are the different cloud service models that it provides regarding infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And after that, we looked at the different components of AWS global infrastructure, which was uh, regions, availability zones, and edge location. So after that, we looked at each individual component in a little bit more detail, and we also talked about how we can practically view that on the console. So how do we look at the different regions that are available to us? What are some of the regions that are not available to us, and what are some of the regions that you have to be in that particular country to be able to access? Okay. So today we are going to look at uh, AWS IAM, which is called as Identity and Access Management. Okay, so this takes care of the entire authentication and authorization of your AWS account. This service is responsible to do authentication and authorization for your entire AWS account for your organization. Okay, so this is one of the services that is part of the uh, shared responsibility model, which we have to take care of. So it is our responsibility to configure AWS IAM accordingly to provide authentication and authorization to different users of our AWS account. Okay. So what is AWS IAM? IAM enables you to manage access to AWS services and resources securely. So using IAM, you can create users, groups, roles, and this credentials in the diagram refers to policies. Okay. And IAM is a feature of AWS account which is offered at zero charge. Okay. So you need not even pay $1 or $2 or something like that for working with AWS IAM. So you will only be charged for some of the services that you use other than IAM, such as EC2 or S3, which we will look at in our further lectures. Okay. So you can see over here on the left side that AWS IAM is in the center, and the identity is a person who requests for a particular access to a particular service in the AWS ecosystem. And that identity can be a user. He can be a user who's part of a group, and it can also be a specific role that a service is going to assume. And at the same time, we can also provide temporary credentials, such as an access key ID or a secret access key, or even a token for a person to be able to assume that role, which provides a token to access the AWS services or resources. And then the permissions is called as policy in IAM side. And this policy has a specific set of statements. And this policy enables a person to be able to restrict access to some of the services that an IAM user or a group or a role can do in the AWS service or the ecosystem. So it allows us to restrict actions to certain resources. Okay. So who is a user in IAM? A user in IAM is a user of the AWS account and can also be called as a user of the organization that uses that AWS account. A user in IAM, for example, can be a developer, he can be a HR, he can be a member of the organization using the AWS account. A user can have two types of access. A user can have a management console access, and at the same time, the user can also have a programmatic access. So the management console access is what we saw last week. Management console access is nothing but logging into the AWS console as an IAM user or as a root account user. Programmatic access is something that you use to interact with the AWS services and resources by providing access key ID and secret access key to access the AWS APIs. Okay, so let's say that you are talking to the AWS management console through your Java code or through your Python code, or let's say you're doing command line interface using the AWS CLI. You are issuing commands to the AWS environment. So for those kind of access, you will need programmatic access, which is access key ID and secret access key. But for management console access, all that you will need is a username and a password. Okay. So user can change his password after the first sign in to the console based on the permissions given by the organization's cloud administrator. So this point highlights that once the cloud admin of your particular organization creates an IAM user, the user can be assigned a temporary password that he can use to log in for the first time. But after he logs in for the first time, he will be able to change his password, which adheres to the password policy that is being set by the cloud administrator. Adheres to the password policy in the sense he has to follow a certain number of characters in his password. He should have an uppercase letter. He should have a lowercase letter. He should have the password to this particular length. and so on. And a user uses his username and password to log into the AWS management console. And a user uses the access key ID and secret access key to access the AWS resources via programmatic access. That is through APIs, through the CLI, through the command line interface in the sense. A policy can be attached to a user to restrict the user actions in the AWS account. So I can ensure that a user can look at only one particular service in AWS out of all the services that it provides and not work with any other service. So I can ensure that a policy is attached to the user that enables that user to work with only that one particular service and do actions only on that one particular service. And similarly, the user can be added to a group or can be an independent user of the AWS account. An example can be a user can be part of the HR group, or at the same time, the user can also be an independent user, such as a cloud administrator who's just an independent user in the AWS account who takes care of the entire organization and its services. So similarly, when it comes to group, a group in an organization can be a collection of users. It can be a HR team, it can be the development team, it can be the DevOps team or the data analyst team and so on. Depends on how the organization wants to view their hierarchy. A group in the AWS account is same as that of a group in the AWS or in an organization. It is a collection of IAM users performing similar actions in the AWS account. So for examples, let's say that the HR is HR team in the organization is using an S3 bucket or a storage space in the cloud to store all the resumes of the people that they hire into the organization. So therefore, IAM users can be created for the HR team, and then a HR group can be created, and these IAM users can be added to the HR group, and then they can have only access to S3 by the usage of policies. So policies are used to restrict access, right? And similarly, a policy can be attached to a group to restrict access to all the AWS services. So that means a policy can be directly attached to the user, or the policy can be attached to the group in the sense that all the users in that group will be able to use that policy or do those actions. That means, for example, all members of the developer IAM group can be attached a policy that can allow them to launch virtual machines in the cloud using the EC2 service. And when it comes to role, an IAM role is an IAM identity that you can create in the AWS account, which has specific permissions. IAM role is very similar to that of an IAM user, but that it can be associated with a person, it can be associated with a role, or it can be associated with a service. Okay, so in the sense that let's say, for example, that you launch a virtual machine in the cloud, and then that virtual machine would like to talk to some other service in AWS, but it wants to do it on your behalf. So in the sense, what I will do is I'll go ahead and create a role for that particular virtual machine to talk to any other service in AWS. So generally a role is created for one particular AWS service to talk to another AWS service. Whereas the difference between a role and a user is that a role is something that is being used by one particular service in AWS to talk to another service in AWS. But an IAM user is a user of the organization who will be able to go ahead and do certain actions in the AWS ecosystem. Okay, so you can see over here in summary, just to generalize, not to be confused, is a role is nothing but it is used by an AWS resource, or it can be used by a person in order to perform actions with AWS resources or services. So let's say, for example, EC2 instance can assume a role to access S3, to download the web content that is there in S3 to serve the end users. Okay, so the EC2 instance will be attached a role. The EC2 instance can assume that role to have some temporary credentials to access another service in AWS, which is called as S3, to go ahead and download the content that is there in S3 to a particular folder within the EC2 instance, okay, or within that virtual machine. A policy can be attached to a role that defines the actions that the role can do with the AWS resources for the person who assumes that role. So let's say the role that I would attach to an EC2 instance would be to access only S3 and not any other service in AWS ecosystem. Okay. So when it comes to a policy is nothing but it allows us to restrict access to a particular resource. And at the same time, it is written in JSON format. And you can attach a policy to an IAM group, to a user, or to a role. And similarly, there are three types of policies. The first policy is called as AWS Managed Policy. So there are already predefined policies that we will see later on in the demo. There are already 300 to 400 predefined policies that AWS has written for us. Other than that, you have a privilege to write your own customer managed policies which perform some specific tasks. And you also have the permission to go ahead and create inline policies which are tied to one particular entity or one particular user. Whereas AWS managed policies and customer managed policies can be applied across users, across groups, across roles. But inline policies are one-to-one mapping with that particular entity that you attach with. And you can create policies through three ways. You can go ahead and import a managed policy within your account and you can edit it to your specific requirements. At the same time, you can also go ahead and create your own policy with two different ways. One is using the visual editor, which is a nice graphical user interface, which allows us to specify certain actions, certain resources, and so on. We will be seeing this a little bit later in the demo. And you can also write the JSON policy document by yourself and directly copy paste the JSON policy into AWS IAM. Okay. So a nice example of an IAM policy that provides administrator access to the AWS account is, these are the elements of the IAM policy. So you have version, you have statement, you can have multiple statements because statement is an array over here, within which we have effect to be allow or deny. So I am allowing access to all actions, to all resources within the AWS ecosystem. So by default, this becomes the administrator access policy. And the version, meaning that when AWS came into existence, they have been using certain version numbers for the policies that they have defined. So any new policy that they add will have the latest version as a date mentioned over there. But this administrator access policy was created in the year 2012. Okay. And as discussed, we have 5 elements to the IAM policy, and you can maximum have up to 5 versions. So let's say that you create a policy for the first time, then you go ahead and edit it at a later point of time. So that means you have 2 versions of the policy right now. Similarly, you can have 5 versions of the policy. If suppose you are creating the 6th version, it goes ahead and replaces the oldest version of the policy that you have created, which is probably the first version. Okay. So what are the 3 types of policies we can discuss over here? So AWS managed policies, there are already around 300 to 400 AWS managed policies in the AWS account. And these policies can be applied across users, groups, and roles. But when it comes to customer managed policies, you can go ahead and create your own policy through the visual editor, or if you already have a JSON template. But let's just say the difference between customer managed policy and an AWS managed policy is that AWS managed policies are general in nature. They are not that specific in nature to providing permissions. But when it comes to customer managed policies, you can ensure that you give very specific conditions over there. So for example, you can say that I am going to provide access to only writing content to a specific folder within a specific S3 bucket. So this kind of granular permissions is not available with a AWS managed policy. Okay. So these policies also can be applied across users, groups, and roles. But when it comes to an inline policy, it is embedded to only one principal entity. So it can be attached to only one group or one user or one role. Okay. So it is a one-to-one entity mapping. Okay. So some of the features of IAM other than user groups, roles, and policies that we discussed are, you can give fine-grained access control to AWS resources. So you can minimize the space of attack. If suppose an hacker is going to go ahead and try to access your AWS account, providing fine-grained access control to all your users or groups is a very good practice. Ensuring that you have multi-factor authentication for privileged users, in the sense that there are 2 layers of security to log into your AWS account. The first layer is your username and password, but you can also ensure that you have multi-factor authentication similar to that of Google, while you can provide your 6-digit code that you are having within your mobile, right? So you have an app in your mobile called Google Authenticator, which you can install and use to provide the second layer of security to your AWS account. And similarly, you can also manage control access for mobile applications via web identity providers, in the sense that you can use your Facebook authentication or your Facebook username and password, or GitHub username and password, or Google username and password to be able to get a session token, which will be present for 3 hours or 4 hours of duration, with which you will be able to access AWS resources. So using your web identity providers, in the sense using Google or Facebook or GitHub credentials, you will be able to log into your AWS ecosystem and work with certain resources. But that session token will be present only for a period of time. So for 3 hours or 4 hours. Similarly, using IAM, you can also integrate it with your corporate directory. So if suppose you have an active directory in your on-premise environment where you are managing your users groups and authorization and authentication, you can ensure that you integrate IAM or identity and access management with your active directory in your on-premise environment, where the user will first go ahead and authenticate himself with the active directory and then assume a role to go ahead and access your AWS resources. Okay, so you can control your password policy, so you can ensure that your password for all your IAM users of your AWS account is being refreshed every 30 days, and you can ensure that you have 3 old passwords remembered. You can also ensure that you use 12-digit characters or 12-digit length for your password, you uppercase character, lowercase character, one special character to be used. So all these things can be controlled using IAM. And you can also enable and disable regions in the AWS account to launch resources, because we have around 18 different regions for general public use, right? So you can ensure that you enable and disable regions in the sense that if suppose I am working out of Chennai and I'm using only the Mumbai region, I can ensure that all the other regions are being locked down. Okay, in the sense that you're again reducing the space of attack for your hackers. So if suppose you enable all the regions and at a later point of time your account is hacked and someone has posted the keys to GitHub and something like that has happened, you will see resources being launched across all the regions. So it will be a very big headache for you to go ahead and terminate all these resources that the hacker has launched. So always go with fine-grained access control and enable or disable all the regions other than the regions that you're going to use to launch your resources. So when it comes to fine-grained access control, you can see over here that we have a scenario. So IAM enables your users to control access to specific resources. It also allows you to add specific conditions, such as the time of the day, to control how a user can use AWS or their originating IP address. So I can ensure that if this particular range of IP address for my organization is going to access the AWS console, give them access. If that IP range is not from my organization, don't give them access. Okay, something like that you can mention through IAM using the conditions in your policy document. And the administrator managing the AWS account will be able to create users, groups, attach custom policies or AWS managed policies to restrict access. So that is called as fine-grained access control. A policy, again, like we discussed before, is a JSON document with 5 elements: version, statement, action, resource, and probably I would have forgotten. Let's go back. Yeah, and effect, which is allow or deny. Okay. Similarly, multi-factor authentication it protects your AWS environment by providing a second layer of security other than the normal username and password. So MFA allows users to physical possession of a hardware MFA token, which is a 6-digit code with an app that they have installed in their Android device or iOS device. So for Android, it's Google Authenticator. You will be able to scan a QR code and then you will be able to enter that 6-digit code twice. Then MFA will be enabled. So the next time that you log into your AWS account, you have to provide your username and password and also provide your MFA 6-digit code to log into the AWS account, which is the second layer of security, which is very good. So similarly, like how we discussed about Web Identity Federation, so the administrator of the AWS account can grant access to AWS resources using Web Identity Federation by the usage of Google, Facebook, GitHub credentials with a token that is created for a specific amount of time, let's say for 3 hours or so on. So then the user will be able to assume that token to talk to AWS resources in the AWS account that you have provided with them. So for example, you can use Web Identity Federation to use your Facebook credentials to talk to the AWS RDS database to retrieve data while using the mobile application after logging into the application using your Facebook credentials. Okay, so you're delegating your authentication and authorization to a third party Web Identity Federation like Google, Facebook, or GitHub to use their credentials to go ahead and get a token which is available for a specific amount of time to talk to AWS resources. So this is the flow for Web Identity Federation. So you can see here step 1 to 7 has been given over here. So the mobile app, which has the Amazon symbol over here, you are going to authenticate your user first. That user is going to be authenticated with your Web Identity Federation using Facebook credentials or G+ credentials or Amazon credentials. Then a token is issued back to the mobile app. which is step 2. And then the mobile app is going to talk to AWS STS. STS is called a secure token service. So it's going to get a token. The token verification is going to be done with the same web identity provider. And then STS is going to issue that user from that mobile app who was logged in an IAM role or temporary security credentials, which is valid for 3 hours or 4 hours of time. Then the user will be able to access any of the resources directly within the AWS ecosystem, within a particular region, and so on. Okay. So the flow goes like, from the mobile app, the user is authenticated with the web identity provider using his Google credentials or Facebook credentials. The web identity provider provides a token. That token is passed on to STS. STS presents an IAM role and also temporary credentials, which is valid for 3 or 4 hours, which the mobile app or that user who has logged in through the mobile app can go ahead and directly use that temporary security credentials to talk to AWS services. Okay. So these are the steps that happens. So the user authenticates, the web identity provider provides a token to the authenticated user. The user then goes ahead and uses that token to talk to AWS STS. STS validates that token, checks the policy that is associated with that IAM role, presents that IAM role as a temporary credential to that AWS user who has logged in through the mobile app. And then using that IAM role, using the temporary credentials for a specific amount of time or for a specific duration, the user is able to talk to AWS APIs or AWS services in the ecosystem. So similarly, while using Web Identity Federation, you can also integrate IAM with your Active Directory or your corporate directory. Okay. So IAM can also be used to grant your employees and applications federated access to the AWS Management Console using your existing identity system such as Microsoft Active Directory. Okay. So the administrator has to first create an LDAP connection or lightweight directory protocol connection with the existing organization's Active Directory. Then an identity provider has to be created. And then the user first authenticates with the LDAP and then assumes an IAM role talking to the AWS STS service, which he will be able to go ahead and perform actions with the services within the AWS platform. Okay. So similarly, we have another diagram to describe the flow. The only difference is over here, you are authenticating with the Active Directory. Previously in Web Identity Federation, you are authenticating yourself with Facebook credentials or Google credentials. So the first step is the user logs into the portal. The user is authenticated with the Active Directory. The Active Directory sends back a SAML response to the user or an assessment response in terms of a JSON document. And then the user goes ahead and talks to AWS STS service with that SAML, which is being retrieved back from the AD. The STS goes ahead, that is secure token service, goes ahead and presents temporary credentials to the user through the use of an IAM role and a policy that is attached to that role. So now the user can go ahead and assume that IAM role or that temporary credentials to go ahead and talk to AWS Management Console. Okay. The only difference in Web Identity Federation was you are using Facebook credentials or Amazon credentials or Google credentials to log in. In Active Directory or corporate directory, you are using your current Active Directory present in your corporate data center or in your on-premise infrastructure, which already has the list of users and groups. Okay. So best practices when it comes to IAM is that you have to create individual users. You have to manage permissions with the use of groups, grant least privilege in the sense which we were discussing before regarding fine-grained access control. Always turn on AWS CloudTrail. We will look at CloudTrail later in a future lecture, which talks about auditing. So each and every API action, each and every action that the user does on the AWS console is being audited, is being logged, and that is through the use of a service called as CloudTrail. Configure a very strong password policy. Like I mentioned, you can use uppercase, lowercase. You can ensure that you always remember 3 previous passwords. You can ensure that password retention period is 30 days. So every 30 days, your password is changed. And enable MFA. MFA is multi-factor authentication to provide a second level of security to your AWS account. Use of IAM roles for EC2 instances is the best practice. Never use access key ID and secret access key. And then you can go ahead and use IAM roles to share that access. Always rotate your security credentials regularly, like every 30 days or every 15 days, ensure that you rotate your security credentials. And restrict privilege access further with conditions like we mentioned before. If suppose the IP address of the particular user who is accessing the AWS console is not from within the organization's range of IP address, please block that person. If suppose it is within that organization's IP address range, allow that person to go ahead and access the AWS console. And generally, there are two types of access. Right now, when we are discussing about this, I'll tell you those two types of access. The first access is where the cloud administrator of the AWS account uses his email ID and password to access the AWS account as a root user. Okay, so that root user will have literally every action. He is attached the administrator access, is what I would say. But as an IAM user that you create for an organization, like a person who is part of the HR team or a person who's part of the development team, these users are called as individual IAM users. Okay, so they will have their own separate login to the AWS console. Okay, we will see both these different types of user access. So me being a cloud administrator will be using the root access, and let's say we will create a user who is part of the HR team, who is an IAM user, who will have limited access to the AWS console. And then we will log in as both these users and we will see the difference. Okay. So going to the demo, what we are going to do in this demo is we are going to create two users in IAM. Okay. And we are going to present both the users with AWS management console access and programmatic access. So they will be able to log into the graphical user interface, and they will also be able to talk to AWS services using their Java API or Python API or AWS CLI for simplicity's sake. And these two users, we are going to ensure that we create new passwords for themselves on signing into the AWS account. So like I mentioned, while creating the user, you can provide a temporary password. Okay. But when these users log in for the first time using their credentials, they will be able to create a new password for themselves. So we will ensure that configuration is also provided. And we are going to add these two users to the HR group. We are going to add a policy to the HR group to create or to access AWS S3 service, to add more documents or create more documents and push them to S3. We are going to attach the AWS managed policy called Amazon S3 full access, which is already present for us. Like I mentioned, you have 300 to 400 managed policies, which AWS provides us with. Then we are going to log in with one of those users that we created in the first step in an incognito window. And then we are going to try accessing AWS service, S3 service, and also try accessing the other services and know the difference. We are going to remove and detach the managed policy from that particular group to which these users were added to. Then we are going to go ahead and create our own customer managed policies denoting the same access. And then we are going to attach this customer managed policy to the same group. And then we are going to go ahead and try accessing the AWS S3 service with the user whom we have already logged in with. And then we are going to go ahead and also install the AWS CLI. And then we are going to configure the AWS CLI with the access key ID and secret access key. Always remember, not with username and password. Username and password is for graphical user interface access. For programmatic access, it is only access key ID and secret access key. Then we are going to go ahead and try listing all the different buckets that are present within AWS S3. And then finally, we are going to just view what password policy we have set for the AWS account. And we are going to set up multi-factor authentication and also view the different policy versions. Okay. So whatever we discussed as a theory, we are going to do that as practical. So going ahead with the practical, this is my normal browser and we have an incognito browser over here. So in the normal browser, I am going to log into a brand new AWS account that I created just yesterday. Okay. My previous AWS account was suspended due to non-payment. So I created a new AWS account. So I'm going to log into this account. So you can see over here, I logged in as a root user with email ID and password. So I have administrator access. I'm the person who bought this account. I'm the person who created this account. So I'll have administrator access to this account. That's how we have to remember that. So now I'm going to go ahead and look at IAM. So over here, this is the dashboard that you will be landing up with when it comes to IAM. Okay. So you can see over here, IAM users or the users that we create will be able to log in using this sign-in link. This is our account ID. It's a 12-digit account ID. I can customize this to provide myself an account alias. So I'm going to call this as Akshay PK 2395. This alias has to be global. So if this alias is available, it's going to change. So my account ID has an alias, which is Akshay PK 2395. Okay. So now on the left side dashboard, you can see that we have groups, users, roles, and policies. Okay. So we are going to first look at users. So right now I have one user that I have created, okay? But now we are going to create two users according to our demo. So we are going to create two users. So I'm going to add an user. I'm going to give the user name. So since we have Hariharan as part of this call, I hope he's there. Yeah, so we have Hariharan as part of this call. We are going to add a user called Hariharan. And then the next person that we are going to add is called as Karthikeyan. Okay. So these are two users who are part of the HR team right now. Okay. And then we are going to give both these users programmatic access and management console access. So the second that you click on the management console access, you will be prompted with the console password. So I can have a custom password for both these users. Like, let's say that my organization is Coda Global. I'm going to go ahead and give a password that's going to be like Coda Global 123. Okay. But then I can also ensure that these users on logging in for the first time have to change their password. Okay. So that is this checkbox. Okay. Right now I'm going to give custom password. Okay. I'm going to give a custom password that I can remember. Okay. So this is the password that I generally have. Okay. So right now we have created two users, given them both programmatic access and management console access, and we have given the custom password. So for the first time that Hariharan or Karthikeyan logs in, they will be using that username called Hariharan and the custom password to log in for the first time. But when they sign in for the first time, they have to change their password immediately. Okay, we will see how that works out. Next, we can attach permissions. We can add this user to a group. We can copy permissions from an existing user, or we can attach existing policies directly. So just to show you that AWS actually has so many managed policies, you can see that when you scroll over here, you have so many managed policies. All these are denoted by this symbol, cube symbol, which is an AWS managed policy. Okay. So right now, I'm not going to give any policies to them, not directly attach policies, but I'm going to add these users to a group. Okay. So let's see how that works out. So I'm not going to attach any policies to them. I'm going to directly click on next tags. I'm going to give a name tag, and probably not a name tag, but a team tag. Okay. This is just to ensure that these two people are part of the HR team. Okay. And next review, and then create the users. So now both these users will be created. So as a cloud administrator, what I would do first is I would go ahead and download the CSV file. Okay. The second thing that I would do is send individual emails to both these people within the organization. Okay. So email is it's like a sample template that is already created. So you can see over here the choose an email provider. I can use any other email, but right now I'm going to quit. So you can send an email directly to these users. So you can see over here that this user is created. The IAM user change password policy has been attached to them. Access key has been created. Okay. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy Hariharan. I'm going to go to my incognito window and I'm going to log in as Hariharan. Okay. But before that, we have to add them to a group and attach policy, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on close. Since I've downloaded the credentials file, I'll always have it. So Hariharan and Karthikeyan are two users that we have created. Next, we have to create a group. Okay. So we'll click on create group. I'm going to call this as HR. So to this HR group, I can directly attach a policy. So right now I'm going to attach the managed policy that we discussed in the demo. Amazon S3 full access and read-only access. So like how I mentioned before, managed policies which are given by AWS as well as customer managed policies, the only difference is that these are generalistic in nature. You will not have fine-grained access control with AWS managed policies. You have to create your own policies for fine-grained access control. Like, let's say, for example, I want to access a particular folder within this bucket. I have to present my own policy for that in a JSON format. Okay. So right now I'm going to attach Amazon S3 full access to this group. And then I'm going to click on next step. I'm going to create the group. So the group is created. The group right now has Amazon S3 full access policy, but they don't have any users. So I'm going to add two users to this group. I'm going to add Hariharan and Karthikeyan to this group. Click on add users. We have added. Okay. So right now, if I log in as Hariharan, I should be able to have access to S3 alone and not to any other service. Let's check that out. So I'm going to go to my incognito window, my account, AWS Management Console. It's going to directly take me to the sign-in link. Okay. So in this sign-in link, you can see over here he is asking you to enter an IAM user, enter your account ID or your account alias. So we set our account alias in the dashboard. We set our account alias to be Akshay PK 2395. So we are going to present Akshay PK 2395 as our account alias. Click on next. So it's going to directly redirect me to my sign-in link. Okay. So now I'm going to log in as Hariharan as the IAM user and the custom password that I created for him. Okay. When I click on sign in, it's going to directly ask me to go ahead and create a new password, because after the user signs in for the first time, a policy that has been attached to him was to go ahead and create a new password for himself. Okay. So the old password is going to be the custom password that I gave while creating the user. Now Hariharan can create a new password for himself, but he has to adhere to the password policy that has been set in the account. So what is the password policy that has been set in the account is that you can see over here. So this password policy, okay, we are going to set it over here. So this password policy right now has only 6 characters in length. Okay. And it requires at least one uppercase, one lowercase. None of these checkboxes have been clicked. Okay. So right now, if I present a password with less than 6 characters for Hariharan, it has to give me an error message on top. Okay. So I'm going to say, this is my new. Okay. So your authentication information is incorrect. Please try again. So you have to adhere to the password policy. This is the old password. I'm going to give a new password which is greater than 6 characters in length. I'm going to confirm. So now once I have confirmed, it's going to automatically dynamically select a region for myself, for Hariharan in fact, who is part of my AWS organization account. Hariharan at my account ID alias. So it has selected the Ohio region. So now as Hariharan, I can go ahead and access S3 because that was the policy that I attached to him while creating the group. So I can type S3. I'm going to open it in a new tab. At the same time, I'm also going to open EC2, which is another service to launch virtual servers in the cloud, which Hariharan does not have access to. So as S3, I'm able to view my buckets. I'm able to view my content and all these. Okay. But when I go to EC2, he says, you're not authorized because Hariharan as a user does not have access to EC2 service. Okay. So next thing, similarly, this is going to happen when we are going to log in with Karthikeyan also. Okay. And at the same time, as Hariharan, he has been given programmatic access other than the management console access. So for management console access, he has logged in with the username and password. He has also changed his password after the first time that he signed in. But then for programmatic access, I'm going to go ahead and open terminal. I already have AWS CLI installed. Okay. So I'm going to open that credentials file that we downloaded, credentials.csv. Okay. So you can see over here, Hariharan has been given an access key ID and a secret access key. So I'm going to take this access key ID. If you have installed AWS CLI, it's very easy to install. You can install it on Windows or in Mac. With Mac, you can install it with Python, pip, or with brew. But with Windows, you have to download the executable file and install. Once you have done that, you can go ahead and present this command AWS configure. So it's saying AWS is not found because this is my new laptop. I haven't installed AWS CLI in this. So let's go ahead and install it. So we are going to go and do, okay, let's open a new tab. So let's go ahead, open a new tab, brew install AWS CLI. So we're going to find this. So it's saying over here, it's just called as AWS CLI. Okay. So let's go ahead and install that. So brew install AWS CLI. This is the first time I'm doing it with brew. Let's see how it works out. Brew is also not found, which is good. So that means the next thing that I have to follow is Google is our friend. So I'm going to go ahead and install AWS CLI. So you can directly follow this. This is from the official AWS website. So you can first check your Python, whether Python is installed. Okay. So I'm going to check whether Python is installed, Python -- version. Version. So I already have 2.7 version installed. So the next thing that I have to do is go ahead and download the AWS CLI bundled installer. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this command. This AWS CLI bundled installer is going to go ahead and download the zip file, okay, and output it to a file name called as this from an S3 bucket, which is globally present. Okay. So once the installer has completed, we can go ahead and run the next command, which is to unzip the installer. Okay. Unzipped. Now, if I press ls, you have the AWS-CLI bundle file. Okay. So then the next step would be to go ahead and install it, and at the same time install it into a specific directory. So we are installing it into the directory user local AWS, and at the same time we are also presenting it as an executable file to the user local bin. It's asking for my password. It's running the command. It's installing. Okay. Install. Agree. Continue. Okay. So you can see over here, it has already installed. You can do AWS -- version. Before that, we will also check whether there are any additional documents over here. No explanation is there. Okay. So let's go ahead and do AWS -- version. You can see it is AWS CLI version is 1.16 right now. Now I can do AWS configure. It is going to ask for my access key ID and secret access key. I'm going to go ahead and log in as Hariharan. So Hariharan's access key is this. So I'm going to paste it in my terminal. His secret access key is this. I'm going to paste it in the terminal. I'm going to choose a region. The default region, I'm going to go with US East 1, Northern Virginia. Default output format, JSON. So now my current CLI or my current terminal is being configured with Hariharan's access key ID and secret access key. Now I can do AWS APIs. So I can do AWS S3 LS to view all the buckets in my account. So it listed out the bucket called Courses Akshay. Okay. So just for readability sake, I'll do AWS S3 LS over here. So it says Courses Akshay 2395. So this Courses Akshay 2395 is the bucket that is available over here. Okay. So similarly, if I do any AWS API related to EC2, I should get an error, right? So if I'm going to say AWS EC2 describe hyphen instances, I may be wrong with this. So let's see. So you can see that an error has occurred. You are not authorized to perform this operation because Hariharan does not have access to EC2. So right now we created two users. We went ahead and created a group called HR team, and then we added the users to that group. We attached Amazon S3 full access to that group. So people or members of that group will be able to access AWS resources. In fact, they access the AWS S3 service. Once they have done that, then we went ahead and configured the AWS CLI. We installed the AWS CLI, and then we went ahead and tried our APIs. Okay. So once this is completed, we can go ahead and look at the next situation, which is to create. We have to go ahead and remove or detach the managed policy. And then we are going to go ahead and create the same policy that we attached as a customer managed policy. Okay. So let's go to IAM. This is our administrator account. Okay. So let's go to groups. Let's go to HR group. Okay. Let's go into that group. Let's go to permissions. Let's detach this policy. So the second that you detach this policy, what happens is it takes a little bit of time to propagate, but now Hariharan and Karthikeyan, who are part of the HR group, will not be able to access IAM. Okay, sorry, S3. Okay. So now what we are going to do is we are going to go to policies and we are going to create our own customer managed policies. Okay. So there are totally 557 AWS managed policies, but we are going to go ahead and create our own customer managed policies. So when you create your own customer managed policies, you are presented with a visual editor or a JSON. So if you have the policy as a JSON, you can directly write your policy as a JSON, or you can import any managed policy and then edit it according to your needs. But right now we are going to go with visual editor, which is a very easy way. So these are the elements of a JSON policy, I mean, of an IAM policy. So we are going to choose a service. I'm going to type S3 over here. Next, under actions, I'm going to give all actions, which is very equivalent to full access policy. Okay. Under resources, I'm going to choose this particular policy is going to have access to any bucket, any job, any object. Okay. And then under request conditions, I'm not going to mention any, but then this is where you mention the source IP. So we discussed the scenario before, which was like, if the source IP is going to be from any member in the organization, then allow access, otherwise deny access, right? So that is where you can mention any request conditions that you want to. So right now we are going to go ahead and review the policy. We are going to give the policy a name. I'm going to call it as Amazon S3 full access customer managed. Okay. So I'm going to give the description as S3 full access policy customer managed. So I can go ahead and create the policy. So now I'll be able to filter between customer managed policies and AWS managed policies. If I click on customer managed policy, I have my only policy over here. So now what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and refresh. Okay. This is the incognito window where Hariharan is there. I'm going to go ahead and refresh S3 and see whether he is able to access S3 bucket. Error access denied because we have revoked his S3 policy from the group. So what we are going to do over here is I'm going to go ahead and go back to the group. I'm going to go to HR group. I'm going to go to permissions and I'm going to add my customer managed policy. So my customer managed policy is called as Amazon S3 full access customer managed. So you can see over here that this is without the symbol, okay, without the box symbol by AWS. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this policy. So when I attach this policy, I'll be able to go back to S3 and do a control shift reload. And you can see right now that Hariharan has access through our customer managed policy to S3. Okay. So the next thing that we have done is similarly, we will try to access it through the AWS CLI. So again, when I say AWS S3 LS, Hariharan will be able to access the S3 buckets that are available and the contents within the S3 bucket. Okay. So I can even, in fact, do one more API call over here. I can say AWS S3 LS and the bucket name. I hope it works. Courses Akshay 2395. So it will list all the contents within the S3 bucket. So the content right now is a folder or a prefix called as SAP HANA. We can confirm this over here. SAP HANA. Okay. So once we have completed this, all we have to view is the password policy, set a more robust password policy for this AWS account. Also go ahead and set up MFA and also view the policy versions. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my admin account, okay, as an admin user, not as Hariharan. And you can see over here under policies, if you go ahead and search for the customer managed policy that you have created, Amazon S3 customer managed policy, you can click on that policy. You can see policy versions. Right now we are on version 1. So you can have up to 5 versions of a customer managed policy. And if suppose you are creating the 6th version, by default, your first version is going to be replaced. And similarly, I can ensure that I have any version over here being set as the default version. So you can have one default version at any point of time. Okay. And similarly, when it comes to the password policy, we are going to go back to the dashboard, click on IAM password policy, manage the password policy. And you can see over here, another thing that we discussed in the slides is that you can go ahead and ensure that you can enable and disable regions to be used in the AWS account to launch resources, right? So you can do over here. Northern Virginia is always active because that is the default region that you're going to work with. Other than that, right now, all the other regions are also active, I can go ahead and deactivate any one of the regions over here. So generally I will work with only Mumbai region and Northern Virginia region. Right now I have resources in only these two regions. I can go ahead and deactivate any other region that I want. But we will look at password policy. So in this password policy, I'm going to enforce that minimum of 12 characters being set for this particular account, minimum of one uppercase, one lowercase character, one number, one alphanumeric, password expiration after 60 days, after 2 months. Always password expiration requires the administrator reset, and allow users to change their own password, and also allow always remember the 3 previous passwords that a particular user has created. Okay. So I'm going to click on save changes. So it's going to be a very robust password policy right now that we have set for this account. And then the next thing that we are going to go ahead and do is, it's going to be dashboard. We are going to activate MFA. Okay. So to activate MFA, a person needs to install Google Authenticator in their mobile phone. Okay. So manage MFA. So automatically it asks us to go ahead and get started with IAM users or security credentials. I'm going to, don't show me this message. I'm going to go ahead and continue to security credentials, which is over here. Under multi-factor authentication, I'm going to click on activate MFA. So you can use a virtual MFA device, which is a mobile device, a mobile app that is installed onto your phone. So I'm going to go ahead and click on continue. So the compatible app that you should have on your phone is Google Authenticator. Okay. So I have Google Authenticator with me. I'm going to scan the QR code. So I'm going to show the QR code. I'm going to scan the QR code. It is presenting me with 2 MFA codes right now. So I have to present the 2 MFA codes that are being displayed in my mobile phone. I'm going to wait until it times out to present me with a second MFA security code, 815090. So I'm going to assign MFA, and then the device has been successfully registered. So now if I log in out of the root account, if I sign out of the root account, and I sign in again back to the console, I'm going to present my username and password, or the root user sign in, email ID and password with which I created the AWS account. It's going to ask for the MFA code, which is the second layer of security right now that we have set up. And when I submit, it's going to log in back to the AWS console. Okay. So right now I'm going to disable MFA because I don't want to have it enabled for the root account each and every time. So I'm going to click on activate MFA, manage MFA, click on MFA, click on manage, and then click on remove, click on remove. Automatically MFA is removed. So the next time I'll be logging in only with my username and password and not with a 6-digit code. Okay. So that's all it is, and it wraps up our IAM session for today. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and stop my Zoom. So let's see. Okay.